But I want to, mixing in with that, is something about, is this like a Bible quote I'm about to say? I don't know, like, those with the ears to hear, or something like that. Sound, plant bioacoustics, shamanic indigenous communication with plants communicating in general, having memory, being able to learn, as you were inferring, although you didn't explicitly say, I don't think, possessing some type of agentic personhood, self-consciousness, in your chapter, Kernels of Truth, you talk explicitly about voice and what it means to allow plants a voice, how we silence them, and why we, as the sort of dominant culture of the modern Western world, why we silence them. And that was one of my favorite parts of the book, although there were a number. And I wonder if you could unpack that a little bit here in the context of what we've been talking about so far.
Yeah, that's something that is actually very dear to me as a space, because because you mentioned the psychedelic science, I like to start from there. I'm watching very closely what's happening in this area. And in particular, how there is this revival now of all the psychedelics, and how we can, use them to heal people with traumatic stress disorders or whatever, depression or whatever, which is great, of course. But there is a big but for me, because there is a real danger I see that we just end up doing what we've done already with everything else. And, when we started doing the genetically modified plants, it was to feed the world. So it looks like the intent is of goodwill and love and care. But first of all, this is such a anthropocentric perspective. It's like we're going to use whatever we can and whatever we have for us to feed our world, not the world, our world, the human world. And if this comes to the cost of the rest of the world, from the non-human component of the world, we don't care. So GM technology, for example, ended up being not such a great idea, because and as a scientist, again, I know that the question in itself is very emotionally loaded, but as a scientist, it's like, GM technology is based on objectifying plants. It's literally, some of the technology is designed to silence certain genes so that they don't express certain aspects of who they are. And then we grow them in monoculture, which means that they can't communicate with the diversity of plants that they would normally communicate with. And we have seen over the years that some plants are losing their communicative abilities, which actually allows them to be strong plants. Some plants are not able to release the right amount or the right quality of volatiles that would, for example, prevent a pest attack. So we are creating a system, by silencing the system, we are creating a system that is not as strong and not as vibrant. And so I'm using this as an example because I sometimes think about the psychedelic space in a similar way. And I'm like, are we just, creating yet another monster where the plants are going to have to serve us for what we need? And we're just going to commercialize everything and make sure that it's all, privately owned, and nobody owns anything. Nobody owns the plant, and the plants own only to themselves. And by extracting chemicals, we're not talking about honoring the being. We are just talking about chemicals, and so yeah, in that sense, it's a strange space, and I don't want to be hypercritical, but I do feel a sense of anxiety around this because from my perspective, what the world needs, at least what I try to instill in my word, is create or support and nurture and care for a space that allows expression. because life, again, going back to the science of it, life thrives on diversity. That's why we're so obsessed as well. We understand that biodiversity is such an important thing, because diversity is the key for a strong system. And when you have a diverse system, it is also more resilient to anything that arrives. So that, you have a disaster, like here we have fires, and if you have a really bad fire, you might lose a big chunk of your forest. But if you have diversity, there is a high chance that there will be some of those that can return and reestablish the space for more forests to come. But if you have just one monoculture and that goes, that's it. It's done. It's finished. So the diversity, or allowing for as much diversity to express itself, is actually a strength, is how the system works. And that is also, at the connecting with the concept of the voice, is like, we haven't even started listening. And I'm talking we as the Western world. We haven't even started listening to what these others have to say and can teach us and can support us with. And all we have seen is materials that we can use. And we have been doing that. And we are really good at that. But my experience, and I know it's not just my experience, is that these are very wise elders. The plants in particular, the plant world has so much to give that is not just about the materials, although they do give that so abundantly anyway. But yeah, there is the knowing, is the wisdom that is embedded and encoded and thriving in this being that we are going to lose, and it's probably the most important heritage that we're going to lose. So for me, giving voice means allow for diversity to thrive, and allow for, everybody to come and express themselves in a way that respects everyone else.